holds with anything but consciousness about himself. Greed is taking over for spectacular events. Information for the mind is disturbing to the body.
Welcome to the Cosmic Reality Radio Show, where our hearts are our masters. Your hosts are Nancy L. Hopkins and Walt Silva. Producing the show is Colleen Kelly. The theme song is called Disturbance and is written and performed by Renate Jet and Jet Music. You are listening to Wolf Spirit Radio at wolfspiritradio.com.
Emotionally undercover for a lover overdressed. The cycle is created long before you start to think that the blink, it's your decision what you do. No clue for the Foo Fighter.
And you are live.
Thank you, Colleen. This is Nancy Hopkins. This is Cosmic Reality Radio Show. It is July 26, 2016. My co-host is Walt Silva. Hi, everybody out there. It continues to be a very interesting world we are living in. How you doing tonight, Walt, besides burning up and...
Well, we are celebrating according to many articles on the internet, supposedly this is the planetary new year. It's the ancient Egyptian new year, begins on July 26th. So I guess that's pretty, and from July 26th to August 8th is the opening of something called the Lion's Gate portal, something like that. I'm not an astrologer. And that it's super, super important that this is the time to invest our consciousness in manifesting really super positive stuff. If you focus on crappy stuff, you're gonna make more crappy stuff for your life. So, hey, I'm for it. So, let's get to work.
What does this mean between, the opening is from now until August?
August 8th.
Oh, and it just shuts at August 8th? Bang.
Well, I don't know if it's a time-based portal, but the point is that
well, you're saying it's an astronomical portal? Something that's out there?
They call it the Lions, like I said, I'm not an astrologer. They call it the Lion's Gate portal.
Okay, is this associated with the New Year? Does the New Year correspond with somehow lining up with that every year? Or is it just that the New Year happens to be coinciding with the portal?
The article doesn't say.
Well, darn.
Darn. The important thing is that if you're not grounding up the energies that supposedly are coming in, you're gonna feel tired, confused, and more crazier than usual. But if you do choose to ground these energies and embody them, then it's totally going to accelerate you and raise your vibrations and your consciousness. So they say this is the right time to invest your focus on manifesting the reality you want, not what you don't want, which is what we all do. We're always focusing on what we don't want. Oh, damn, this is so horrible. Stop thinking about it.
Well, Corey Good in an article that I read earlier regarding the Sphere Alliance, said that he was told on June 10th that incoming cosmic energies are dramatically ramping up energy levels for the sun, solar system, and the entire planet. People in groups are being easily triggered, which helps explain the elite exodus to Antarctica described in part 1, and the upsurge of violent extremism around the planet. And just, I was going to kind of end the discussion, but I think I'll just go on and start it because, he said that according to this Terrier, I don't know, Raw Terrier, some extraterrestrial that Good was talking to, the future and the kind of disclosure humanity is going to experience will be determined by the collective consciousness and how well we react to unfolding events around us. Good summarized the optimal response to an uncertain future in which what he describes as the message. He says, every day focus on becoming more service to others oriented. Focus on being more loving and focus on raising your vibrational and consciousness level and to learn to forgive yourself and others, thus releasing karma. This will change the vibration of the planet, the shared consciousness of humanity, and change humanity one person at a time, even if that one person is yourself. At a time of great change, where global elites are finding refuge in remote locations amidst uncertainty over what the future holds for them, and extraterrestrials debate over whether to openly make contact, the choice is ours over what the future holds for us. We must remember the power of love and forgiveness in opening up positive possibilities for all of us, including that of a peaceful, full disclosure of the secret space program and extraterrestrial alliances that can greatly expand and enrich human destiny. And you said it, and he's confirming it, and, everything that we're seeing, including what Taryn has said, is, that we're at a very, very critical point, and it all depends on how we're thinking.
Yep. I mean, it used to sound like a broken record, but he was 100% right. Every time I attended Dr. Costa's workshops on the 15th step or any other type of workshop that he was doing at the time, whenever somebody would say, like, I'll give you an example. I forget if this was in a documentary or an anthropological report, but I remember many years ago when I was still in Argentina, my father showed me the book, how in medieval times, so medieval times, I guess we're looking back, 500-600 years, it was very common for human adults to have second dentition. Children have what they call the baby teeth, and eventually those fall out, and you get your what they call the second dentition, the second series of teeth that supposedly you're going to have for the rest of your life, unless you don't take care of them. It was documented that in medieval times, medieval Europe, it was common for full-grown human adults to have a second dentition where they would lose a tooth for whatever reason, and another one would grow. So, I remember in one of the workshops, somebody asked, why was it possible before and why isn't it possible today? And Dr. Costa says, because of man's thinking. It gets in the way of everything. Our ability to create belief systems and stick to them like glue, where we rather give up an arm or give up our lives before giving up our belief systems, creates the reality that we're living in. So we have this firm belief because in school they hammered it into our brains. Yeah, you only have 2 dentitions in life, so that's it. That's gospel. You cannot believe that anything else is possible. And yet, even today, you have these cases of people that have terrible tumors and whatnot, and they change their belief system, and all of a sudden, overnight, they go into full remission, and they're completely healed. And doctors are baffled, and they try to find 1,000 excuses why it happened. Oh, because maybe the person did this. Oh, maybe the person. No, the person just changed their thinking. They changed their belief system, and therefore the hologram of their body has to change. That's the way it is. We're so programmed and so conditioned, and it's incredible. And why, and you would think, not to go into conspiracy mode, but you would think, well, why would it behoove anyone to program us this way, to believe that we can't have a second set of dentitions later on in life? Well, think about it. When you're living in a civilization where money is to be made in all things medical, I want you to spend your money going on to dentist every single month, every 6 months, to get a cleaning or this or that. So we're constantly paying that maintenance of our teeth, when in reality we could be regrowing new teeth. So it makes sense, the way the game of domination and control has been set up, it makes sense to put these limitations on humanity, because then if humanity realizes that they have all these powers, they become independent of the system, and that's no good. Like I was saying to Dali, they used us, our consciousness, our energy to manifest the reality they want. But it's so insidious because if you're a dairy farmer and you have a herd of cows, right? And you exploit them for their milk. And I guess at one time some of them will get slaughtered, so you exploit them for their meat. But you have to maintain them. You have to feed them and water them, give them medical attention. The system of control and domination is so insidious, they've gone beyond that. Imagine a dairy farmer that has a herd of cows, but the cows have to go out and earn their food and their water, and then you get their milk for free. That's what they've done. That's the way they've set up the system. Not only are they using our consciousness, our focus, our energy to manifest the world that they want, but on top of it, we pay them for it. It's a win-win scenario, isn't it? So this is it. This is the time to, wake up to all these little programs that have been implemented into us and just clean house. Like going into that attic you've never visited in 20 years. Do I need this? No. Out. Do I need this? No. And there's no need to spend any time dwelling on it and being outraged. Oh my God, they've exploited me for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. Well, it was what it was, a game, an experiment, but now it's officially over. So now I can do away with it. What do I want? Revenge?
Well, David Wilcock pointed out very clearly that, you can't punish all these people because those are the people that know how to run the country, know how to run the economy. And that, there's an unknown number that would get out if they could. They're trapped too.
Yeah.
So it's just better to, go after it's going to be really easy to figure out who the really culprits are because those are the ones that have fled to Antarctica and Switzerland.
So this is who's confirming these exodus? Corey Good in his writings. He's confirming these.
Yeah. Yep. What happened was that, let's go back to the beginning because we're going to have, Terran, aka American Kapuki, on, Saturday, and he's going to do another 2 shows.
Can you remember to ask him a question for me?
Sure, what?
Well, it has to do with what he said about this lady Heather, the lawyer, who is an embodiment of one of those 11 essences. I listened to 4 of the 5 hours. I listened to Dali's show, then I listened to the Say What, where you were there, but I haven't listened to the 5th hour. And he spoke about that document that the lady wrote, and that it was written in special language, multidimensional language, and the Galactics picked it up immediately and they understood it. So my question that has to do with that document is the following. If, according to the document, the experiment of separation is officially over, the Sphere Alliance recognizes this, acknowledges it, and they are the ones enforcing it. Maybe not here on the surface of the Earth, but at least it's being enforced at the galactic interplanetary level. My question is, when are they bringing down the veil of forgetting? Because in this experiment of separation, if you see it as a recipe, like a recipe for a cake or a recipe for what it is, an experiment, the number 1 ingredient is the veil of separation. That's what keeps us up.
But see, my feeling is that that's not their decision, that is our decision. We have to do it. If we can't do it, then game over.
Well, that brings another question then.
But what he says is that it's going to happen in an instant that you remember that it drops. So they know that it's going to drop. All right?
Okay.
But is it going to drop because we suddenly see the sphere or because we get to that point and open up to go, oh yeah, and there's also the Sphere Alliance, remember them? And then boom, they're there. Oh, here, they're here. See this? I mean, it's timing.
Well, that brings up my second question. In the veil of forgetting, is it being produced and sustained from the astral planes by some kind of exotic technology, or is it being sustained by the collective consciousness who's been duped into believing that it exists?
I don't know. I'll try to remember to ask them, but my response is the second one. Again, is that it doesn't make any sense to me that all of a sudden somebody comes and whisks away the veil. All right? Because what was the point?
Well, the experiment is over. I mean, that's what the document is for. The experiment of separation, it's complete, it's over. Source has gotten all the data that it could possibly milk out of this monstrous experiment. So why do we need to keep the lights running? Why do we need to keep the machine running? It's over.
Well, it might be, it's one thing to say technically that, the other guy can't mess anymore. All right? Now, let me put it to you this way. You're in a soccer game. Okay? And suddenly they end the game because, well, we just are over it. You don't have the pleasure of winning the game. You know what I'm saying? And it is a game. And we've been playing this game. Whether we were duped into it as, higher spirits or duped into it as 3D people.
Well, I think it's gone into quadruple overtime, this game.
My belief is that the game is to take a species that integrates DNA. Now, according to, which one of them was it? It's Corey Goode. Corey Goode said that there were 22, messings with DNA. And also Alex Collier confirmed the same number, 22. So let's say you've got 22 star families out there that have put 22 different DNAs. This is a unique situation here. I believe that we are on the verge of, it's almost like you've been running on one computer and you got 10 computers that are now coming online. And when those kick in, then you will have the veils dropping everywhere. I don't believe the Sphere Alliance can come in and show themselves until the dropping of the veil. And I believe that that's in the minds of human beings. And
yeah, they were convinced into the same thing that it's being done here on the material level, the 3D level, where they're exploiting our consciousness and our energy to sustain the reality they want. This is not unique to the 3D. They've done this in the etheric and they've done it in the astral. They've set up a system where we were being exploited. This is the thing that Andrew Barthes speaks of, that for so long incarnation in this planet was subverted into forced reincarnation.
Let's step back and talk about that, because you're forgetting the Archon event that we did months ago. All right. Now I give you that there was messing in the etheric level, which is a blueprint for the 3D, that occurred because of human machinations when back in Atlantis they wanted to control the etheric connection, which then connects you to your higher bodies, by the putting in a artificial intelligence energy that was just going to sort of disconnect us. That was the purpose of it. That's what I interpreted when I looked at it. All right, and it was that weird vision of all the heads tied into the electronics. Remember that?
Yep.
So we worked with other spirits and decided that we could put a sub-program in that would, turn that around. And that's what happened. So some of the things that people are still talking about
Are no longer there.
Are no longer there in our reality. In our reality, Walt. Because either those things happened or they didn't happen.
Yeah.
Either they're real or they're not. Alright, so I'm going to make the assumption that they're real, and I'm going to focus on the fact that a lot of these controls are no longer there and have not been there for a while, which is something Taryn indicated too. He said that they had that it was no longer possible for them to do terrible things to humanity and not have energetic repercussions from it.
Yeah, that's the reason you were explaining in the other show why they were forced to use crisis actors.
Crisis actors. And that started with the Boston, well, at least by the Boston bombing it was happening, and it looks like the one before that at the school, Sandy Hook, that it had started. So this started quite a ways back. The fact that there were already changes, and some of those changes, whether we understood it or not, were allowing us to sort of like start to remember, start to expand. If we could step back and look at all of the different little storylines that have been happening, then we could see the bigger story. And maybe that's what we need to do. But right now, we've got a situation where a lot of the controls have already been gone. There is nothing really holding us back from making this leap except ourselves.
Exactly. I like the super positive confirmation when Taryn got that update. He got a message from Denise, is the name of the lady that he works with, who communicates directly with the Sphere Alliance, and he got the message concerning the beacon. Okay, if the message is confirming their awareness of it and the functionality of it, what was the purpose? So if that little thing, they are aware of it and they actually avail themselves of it at one time, that to me is confirmation that the dialer is real and it works, and that the cube is real and it works. And the whole matrix has been changing ever since all of that stuff went online. So that's a very nice external confirmation. And we're talking external because we're talking people from outside of this planet confirming for us. So that's,
well, in actuality, it wasn't, it was all, okay. You got the image to make the devices. I got the downput of, what they're for. And
exactly.
Then I get a telepathic communication with the Sphere Alliance, the Blue Avians at that point, telling me that this was a beacon so that they knew which reality to come to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But all of that was spirit guided.
Exactly.
It wasn't like we said, hey, there's some Blue Avians up there, let's put a sphere so that they can find us. It wasn't like that. It was like all of a sudden we're being, but we were willing to follow a crazy story.
Yeah.
And it's all storytelling. It's which story is going to turn out to be the best story. Because then we're only going to accept the best story. And so, to me, the best story is that human beings, in the form of you and me and whoever else has been on this journey with us, have made certain changes to the construct of reality. We have created a third reality simply because we thought we could. And because we were being led to devices that allowed us to. I mean, of all the things that Taryn said in those 5 hours, the one that shook me was the one he talked about his near-death experience.
Oh, yeah.
And he was shown a cube, a hyperdimensional, he called it a tesseract. And if you go to Haggy Shack YouTube, you'll see, the first hour of the first hour that he was on, I did put graphics to it because I felt it was necessary to be able to make it easier to imagine what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking about things that like what's a hyperdimensional cube? What's a tesseract? So
yeah.
those pictures are there, but those pictures are so reminiscent of what you image in your mind of the reality cube.
Uh-huh.
That's not coincidence. I mean, it's coincidence
No.
that it's thought in action. You mean, you
That's
can't,
not coincidence.
it's like that's thought in action. Dolly asked on one show, did I think that it was destined that Taryn and I meet in that particular yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, it's not that I think somebody up there is playing chess with me. I think that we are all united in a higher kind of consciousness to do this stuff. And that it's a great orchestration of, just bringing people who are talking the same talk. I mean, I'm stunned by how there's a synchronicity in everything that we're hearing out there. So many things that, when was it, Walt? Not very long ago that I said I think the Dracos had come in because the AI had gotten into them. That whole story?
Yeah.
Well, now Simon Parks is saying the same thing, and I don't think he listens to me. I may listen to him, but I don't think he listens to me.
How did he present that story? What does he say about it?
That they were infected with nano, AI.
Oh.
And that's why they came here. I mean, the same story I told that I said I'm making this up sort of. This is what's in my head right now. I'm telling you what I'm thinking, which is part of the collective consciousness.
Yep.
He and I may have gotten the images at the same time. Somebody else may have gotten it before us. Who the hell knows? But I know that there's a synchronicity in the way that we're starting to perceive everything. The veil is already coming down. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
And it's been coming down. And when it finally falls, when everybody goes, holy shit, when that happens, that's when the Sphere Alliance.
Here's your evidence to back up everything you said up to this point. Decades ago, if we look, remember, in the early 1900s, both in Europe and in the Americas, there was a short renaissance where a lot of people were interested in esoteric things and metaphysical things. Like that's about the time when Madame Blavatsky, appeared and the Theosophic movement got started and seances were commonplace, and many people that today are considered scientists at the time had no qualms about doing things like meditation or astral projecting. That's what, Edison used to do. But at the time, that just goes to show you how strong and how healthy the veil of forgetting was at the time. It would take someone literally years and years and years of discipline and constant training to be able to achieve those things like telepathy or remote viewing or stuff. That's why when you read those old books, you keep reading all these stories of, even Europeans, they would go to India and they would spend 10, 20 years with a guru and they would meditate 6 hours every day. And you would see these tremendous feats of physical, mental, discipline, and in our eyes, we would call it torture. But because, the veil was so strong and powerful, it would take tremendous efforts on your part to unplug yourself from it and be able to use your natural psychic powers that we all have. But now the thing is onion skin. It's so frail and it's so transparent. There are people experiencing telepathy who never even knew what the word meant. So that's to me is proof positive of how the thing is collapsing, quickly.
Yeah. It's absolutely a beautiful thing to perceive. But I'm getting kind of, let's get this done quickly.
Let's get the party started.
To be honest with you, I'm kind of schizophrenic about it because at one part of me says, oh, this is so much fun just watching it slowly evolve, It's because if you go in slow, you can catch the details.
Oh.
And the other part of me is going like, I don't want one more animal to suffer. I don't want one more child to suffer. I've got this total empathic kind of, And so the other day I was meditating. I'm thinking, okay, obviously we got to do this as fast as we can do it. Let's pull the tooth back.
That's the reason for my question at the beginning of the show. If this lady has composed this document and the experiment is over, okay, then let's the suffering be over as well. It's over. That's
right.
Enough.
Right, but it's not up to them. It's up to
us.
us.
Yeah, I get that part.
Okay, so
that's why they are able to enforce it at the galactic level, because that's where they come in, but they're not allowed to enforce it at the planetary level.
Correct.
The humans that have to, that's why I only watched it because I pay for the Hulu subscriptions, so they are showing that movie, Interstellar, with Matthew McConaughey, the actor. That movie rubbed me the wrong way. It's insulting, because the storyline is that there's a plant illness. They call, I forget what they call it. It's like, when you have, crops and they're attacked by some kind of fungus, and you have to burn the crops because otherwise the thing keeps spreading. Well, the whole planet is suffering of this, illness that's attacking the vegetation. So at one point in the film, Michael Caine, who's the scientist working on perfecting anti-gravity propulsion, he says, we're not meant to save the planet, we're meant to leave it. I'm sorry, but that just kicked me in the face. You guys made this mess with your technology and your greed and all your crap, and now you're gonna leave? I mean, that's just, I guess maybe I'm too finicky or something, but that scene just bothered me till the end.
Well, my feeling is that, there's no point in leaving. If we can't do it here, we can't do it. Well, I'm gonna ask Taryn about the cube again. As a matter of fact, I'm going to, I think that they finally got a picture of it. And I want to send it to him and say, does this look familiar? Because if it doesn't, it doesn't, it doesn't one way or the other. But if it looks familiar to him, and he understands what it was all about, then it clearly makes sense what the guides told him. Actually, I think it was a
But that was quite significant that those folks that wanted him to fiddle with the cube, he didn't like them. He got a really bad impression of this. When he first started his ND, he had a chance to meet his own guides and, positive entities. But then when these other entities showed up and took him to where he saw this cube, he specifically said he got a really bad feeling about these folks. They were completely different from the others. And that's why when he realized that if he did tamper with this, things would take a really, really nasty turn. And that's why he said no, and he opened his eyes and he was back in the hospital bed.
Well, when he asked the Sphere Alliance about it, they said, had you tried to change it, it would have allowed the Nazi timeline to continue forever. And that's why, to me, I mean, you know that we went out there and we said things and we had a great time telling stories and playing. It was all real to me, but we presented it as reality sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're, going on 2 years, I guess, into it. And we're having a massive amount of, all the thoughts are starting to collect.
It's like the different reality sci-fis are beginning to cluster.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, what's the noise behind you?
Oh, sorry. I'm packaging spirals.
Oh, no.
I figured that since I'm using my mouth, I might as well use my hands for something.
Yeah, but we can hear this paper crunching or something. I didn't
know it was so loud. I apologize for that.
Okay, we're going to forgive you.
Okay.
Colleen she had asked, I didn't even see it. What's all that cracking sound? Oh, just wall packaging.
Graham cookies.
Sounds like the cat playing with the blinds.
Now here the robins do that. They're the ones who play with the blinds.
Oh, you want to hear a story? This was crazy. This one. My family, my cousin lives up in New York, and it was very hot, and she opened up the window a little bit, and there was blinds in front of it, and the cat got behind the windows and up near the screen where it was cooler, you know, and all of a sudden they heard this blood-curdling sound from the cat, and her husband ran into the room and kind of like pulled up the shade, and the cat jumped down, and, you know, and he didn't know what had happened, what was going on, you know, but the next day they found the screen had been shredded. There was a bear out there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What state is this that they're living in?
New York, Binghamton, New York area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so they're upstate.
And yeah, and that was one of those things where I'm going like, please, we've got to stop this quickly, because everything's going haywire. You know, the old reality, the Nazi reality is self-destructing at this point. You remember one time I had this vision kind of thought, this thing in my head about two boats that were still tied together?
Oh, yeah.
You remember that illusion that I had? Well, now what I see is this, you know, civilization that's just starting to crumble. And, you know, huge chunks are just falling away from it. And I think that the reason that everything is on track is because we had that third reality, the one that Anelia said she sees start up. Again, That was one of the first confirmations, where she started talking about she's seeing a third reality. And so that third reality that's being maintained by the cube, and that's the other thing, I need to have him explain more what he thought that cube was for. Because he started talking about, you know, something to do with, reality. And, you know, locking in reality. He didn't use locking in, he used another word, but a construct of reality, I think, something like that.
Well, wasn't it, shortly after you got it, I think it was around the time, you had already taken the cube outside the house, put it where that Merkaba structure is, and I think you had just recently received the dialer, and I was sending you the different implosion coils for different essences. And I think one of them, was anti-tyranny or peace, or one of these essences. And you said they guided me to put a specific one and just keep it there running. But at the same time, you were following some event in the Middle East where there was going to be an open declaration of war or something, and it didn't come to pass. Remember that shifted?
Well, no, that was when I first got the radionics box that we call the reality dialer.
Mm-hmm.
And, you sent it, and then Cindy was here, and I was sort of showing it to her, and I heard something rattling. And I'm going like, what's that sound? So I eventually opened up the back to find a piece of shungite that was rolling around in there. And I saw where it should have been, but there was no way that it wanted to go back in there. So then I got you in, I said, what's this? Can I take this out? Because it doesn't seem to want to be there. And you said, yes, you know. So we took that out and then put it back together again. And, the next day, I attempted to turn it on, to work with it. Well, no, actually, what happened was I was minding my own business, and all of a sudden I get this, you gotta turn that reality dialer on. And I'm going like, but I'm busy, you know. No, you gotta do it right now. Okay. So I get it out, and a radionics box is, you know, it's the same directions for every radionics box, basically. You've got a witness, and you put something on that, and then using the kind of etheric, magical wiring that goes with it, you create a frequency of of energy that can do many things. It's been around for a very long time. In this case, the circuitry was based on shungite, and the witness was a copper plate that is in the triangle form that's then connected to the box. A lot of times it'll be a can on the box, a tin can on the box. That's the witness. But in this case, Walt had made a very interesting one in that it was portable, so to speak. So I'm trying to get this thing on, and it's not turning on. And I get an image in my head that I need to take a piece of elite shungite and a piece of raw shungite. But unfortunately, the raw shungite that I'm seeing is the piece that had been rolling around in the radionics box. And when I took it out, I put it on the table, and then Cindy and I looked for it, and we looked all over for it, and we could not find this piece of nugget. So I get the image of the elite. I know exactly where that is, and I get the picture of that, and I went, oh crap, because I know that we can't find it, and I look over to the table where I had put it when I first took it out, and it's sitting right there. There's no way that thing, we would have missed it, So then, okay, so what do you want me to do with these? You want me to put it in a pendant. Okay, so what wire do you want? We want hematite. Okay, so I get the hematite wire, and I wire the two together like I do a pendant. But then no sooner did I do that than they told me, now you've got to reverse the thing and you've got to do it again, but in the other direction. And what this created, I was told after the fact, was that we had created a torsion field in this pendant, because at the top, the two wires going in opposite directions was causing a torsion field, correct? Walt, the standing wave?
Yep.
So, anyway, once I made this thing and I put it on the witness, the whole thing, the radionics box just, boom, came to life. And they're going like, okay. And I'm going like, well, what's the witness? What are we doing? And they said, you're the witness. And I'm going, I'm the witness? Yeah, you're the witness. All right. What do you want me to do? And they said, program no Third World War. And I said, okay. So now I'm the witness. So I got the thing on my chest. I got the key hanging on it. I call it the key because that's what it was. You can't start this thing up unless you've got this. So I got the key. I got the witness on my chest. And now I gotta dial it in. And that's 3 dials that I've gotta sync with energy to get this. What's basically happening is they're taking my thought and they're extraordinarily expanding it through the radionics box. They take a 3D thought and they hike up the energy level to it until it's an etheric thought. Then at the etheric level, it does wherever it's going or whatever it wants to do. In this case, I was supposed to stop Third World War. And so that image is coming through on the blueprint side of reality, the etheric. Okay? And it just comes down into the 3D, and that's why in this particular radionics box and others are never going to run this powerful because of the circuitry through the shungite. But so that's what happened. They needed me to get that thought into the etheric so that it could change the world and not have a Third World War. As soon as I hooked up in the energy and I got it in phase, I was not comfortable. I really was not comfortable at all. I had to maintain just the thought, no Third World War. That's all I had to do, but I kept losing the focus because I was feeling so sick. Everything in me was spinning. I was like, I can't tell you, it was just like everything was spinning. And so I've got to maintain this thought in my head and not fall back into a 3D recognition of, whoa, I'm not feeling good. And 3 times I said, can I get out of this? No. And it was the 3rd time and they went, wait, okay. Like that. And I went, oh, thank God, And so I take this thing off of me, take the key away from it. And I said, where am I supposed to put this? And I get the image that I'm supposed to put it right next to this, it's crystal computer system that I didn't even know I was making, but apparently that's what it is. And I stick it in there, and this is what was so crazy about it, was that as I'm putting it down, I'm walking and I'm going like, what is that noise? And I'm hearing this, what is that noise, you know? And I started to forget what I was doing, and even though I'm in the process of doing it, and started focusing in on the noise, and gradually I realized it was the air conditioner. And when I finally realized it was the air conditioner, I was back in my 3D environment. The spinning had stopped, and I went, oh my God, what the hell, what had just happened, you know? And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I took a lot of drugs in my life, so it was probably just preparing me for that instant, because what I believe happened is that the key, being the witness, doing what I was doing, created a standing wave around me. And that when I got up and started moving, I was walking within a standing wave. And it was the air conditioner in the 3D reality that drew me back to the 3D. I started focusing on it. I started resonating again with the 3D. I didn't panic. It wasn't anything to panic about, but after the fact I thought, whoa, that was close. But anyway, so what I found out was that, and I was when these things are happening, I've learned to pay attention to the time. So before I start doing something, I'll glance at the clock to know what time it is. And what I found out was that when they had me get into this, putting out this thought of no third world war, they had started bombing Syria. It lasted for 20 minutes, and then it stopped. And there was no explanation as to why they did it or why it stopped. And, you know, my take from it was that attack was was supposed to initiate the Third World War. And instead, they had me do this energy thing that just imprinted, you know, no, you're not going to do this. And no matter what they tried, wouldn't have worked because of that amount of focused energy on one thought. Now, was it me? I didn't know the Syrians were about to do this. You know, somebody was giving me the messaging.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, what I just wanted to mention is that I didn't even, when I put together the box, I didn't follow the traditional radionics box structure. There is a traditional layout of how a radionics box should be wired. But the design for this came from your guides, because if you remember at the time you gave me permission to speak to your guides if I had any questions. And they're the ones who gave a lot of insight onto the workings of Shungite. They're the ones who showed me that if you take the Shungite spirit spiral with the 3 pieces of Shungite, which I put 4 and 1 fell out. That's the one that was rattling. What you would end up doing, they used the words reality dialer because they said by powering the box with a Shungite spirit spiral, you're literally driving that vortex wherever you want, therefore allowing you to dial up the reality that you want. And that's why I named it that. And they're the ones who gave me what I put underneath, where it says, you know, power demands responsibility. Absolute power demands absolute responsibility. That came also from them. And that's why I put that on underneath the box.
Well, actually, don't you remember what happened was that when we opened it up, you hadn't put it on the box. Yeah, because when we opened it up, maybe it was on the bottom of the box, but when we opened it up, I actually, somehow or another, there was a paper with that written on it. So when I opened up the box, I put it inside the box.
Mm.
I don't remember if you gave it to me or you told me or it was, I don't know, but we actually put that saying inside the box.
Mm.
You know, absolute power demands absolute responsibility.
So that's why, I mean, when I was assembling that, I was almost like, remember with the cube, I was in a rush to get it to you. I didn't want it. The same thing happened with the box. I didn't even want to turn the dial for any reason. And even that is different from a traditional radionics box, because when they do a traditional box, whether it has 3, 6, or 9 knobs, the traditional structure is that all the pots, they're called pots because it's short for potentiometers. All the pots have the same value. But these 3 is different. They have, values, and they have, decreasing values. So with those 3, you achieve the same level of granularity and precision as if you had 9 or 12 pots. That also came from them. That wasn't my idea. I just followed instructions.
Well, it certainly seemed to work. Certainly seemed to work.
Well, think about it in these other terms. We were never going to change the old reality. Because, like I said before, I know it sounds like a broken record, but it's working perfectly. So what in it can you touch or avail yourself of to change it? Nothing. All the mechanisms, all the agencies, all the organizations, all the structures, everything is designed to keep you as we've been all this time, slaves of the system. There is nothing in place to turn it off. They made it without an off switch. So they have to give us something. They have to give us something.
It brings me back to what Dolores Cannon said when she asked the guides, what's the purpose of humanity? And the response was to understand how to manipulate energy.
Yeah.
What we did in deciding to create a new reality was the ultimate decision to manipulate reality. Manipulate energy.
Yeah.
Because we said that if we put our focus into the old reality to fix it, we're still putting our energies into it, perpetuating it.
Exactly.
If we build a new reality, we focus all our energies on the new reality, and sooner or later, there'll be enough people that are drawn to our reality to the point that there is no more energy sustaining the old reality. That's the theory that we had when we started talking about it. And then as soon as we committed to that kind of I don't think either one of us had a clue as to how we were going to do it. But then you started getting these devices
that
began to teach us how to manipulate energy.
Yeah, and think of it, these, extraterrestrial civilizations that so many people are fond of, talking about them and everything. Okay, so we can state clearly that they are, thousands of years older than us or thousands of years more advanced than us, but they still avail themselves of technology. Oh, of course, it's so advanced. The old saying, technology advanced enough looks nothing short of magic, right? But they're still using it. So there must be a purpose for it.
Well, it's like Shungite looked like magic. It looks like magic. Because
and that's one of the things about I think that's one of the things about the old reality that we have to bring down with Shungite. The fact that all the energy systems are designed to put out negative energy. The energy in the water is negative. The energy in the natural gas is negative. The energy and the electric power that we get is negative. And when we change that spin, when we change that torsion field from negative to positive, machines don't wear as much. Machines use less energy to do the same amount of work. Machines don't heat up. Everything becomes better because that's it. David Wilcock has said that this is a positive universe. It is. The nature of this universe is positive. It's not negative. On the issue of radiation, for example, I always get them confused. This fellow, Walter Campbell is I think he wrote several metaphysical books. He's the one that said that radiation it's nothing short of death energy. And radiation has a counterclockwise spin. That's why I said to you, this is what the Russians must have used to save the lives of all those emergency workers at Chernobyl because they're still around. They haven't died riddled with tumors or illnesses. In fact, one of them I saw him in an interview that was done years after, the Chernobyl thing had been sealed up. So that's one of the things. I'll give you another example of this business of positive energy versus negative energy. I think he's Australian or a New Zealander, this gentleman by the last name of Searle, who invented his own kind of power generator that uses these magnetic cylinders and concentric rings. And the thing, once it starts rotating, it never stops. It's so powerful that you can use it as a generator and you can use it as propulsion for a flying ship. And in fact, he has shown prototypes how this thing will actually power a ship and you can actually drive it. And one of the things he did is he built one for himself and he connected it to his house. So instead of drawing power from the power grid, he was actually putting power back into the grid. And they were looking for every loophole to shut it down because they said, oh, you're stealing power. And when they went to take measurements, it was the other way around. He was giving them power. But the point that I wanted to make is that I don't know where in the house he had this generator sitting, but he spent several hours a day, sitting in the house. So he's exposed to the field that this generator is putting out. And in the first few months, he noticed he was getting younger. The illnesses that he had began to dissolve a little bit at a time, and he started regaining a lot of health that he had lost. His body was getting younger, and all of that for sitting inside a field of positive energy, a clockwise spinning field. And, the man doesn't know shungite. So that just goes to show how important it is to get our energy back in everything. Food, air, water. Get all that energy in a clockwise direction and everything's going to change. I was surprised at changing the car with the high temperature magnet application. Remember I showed you the thing on the Skype?
Yes.
Oh, the engine got quiet and smooth when I put the first Fox mask on the gas tank. But this time it got even quieter and smoother. And I'll tell you later, I did the temperature change, and yes, there is, the engine gets hotter without the magnet. So it must change the field that the engine block puts out.
So you did test the temperature of the engine itself without the shungite magnet, and then with the shungite magnet.
Yep.
And with the shungite magnet, it was cooler.
Well, what I did is I chose a specific point so I would be consistent in always testing the same point. Not, it doesn't make any sense if you're going to test this point with one condition and then another point with a different condition that you're losing your baseline. So I chose one specific point. And without the magnet, I took the magnet out. I drove maybe 20-25 minutes, came back to the house, opened the hood, got the temperature probe. I put it on the point. I counted to 30 and it read 156 degrees Fahrenheit. Then with the magnet, because I had a tough time finding a spot where to attach it, I found a spot right next to the oil filter on the block and attached the magnet there. Again, I drove something like 20-25 minutes, came back, probed the same spot, counted to 30, and this time it was measuring 145 Fahrenheit. The engine was actually quieter. It got quiet when I put the Fox mask on the gas tank, but this time it was really quiet. I think it works. But I guess I'll make another prototype and I can't send it to you. You're not a good test subject because you don't like to drive.
Listen, we're at the top of the hour, so let's do a tune and we'll take a little break and then we'll come back.
Okie dokie.
Colleen?
Alrighty. We're going into the twilight. And we're back.
Okay, you're listening to the Cosmic Reality Radio Show with Nancy Hopkins and Walt Silva, and Colleen Kelly is producing from Aggie Shack Radio. This is being heard over Wolf Spirit Radio. Your donations are welcomed. You can join the membership and get the archives for $5 a month, or you can go for the next week and you can get an archive to download of this show, or any of the shows that are in the previous week. Dolly wants us to cover the space, the secret space program, so we're going to do that. And the way that I'm going to do that is I took some notes. I went to X-Political, is it? What is it? X-Politics, whatever it is. And a lot of other sites, and just started taking notes because it gets extremely confusing as to what we're really talking about. But there are certain, when I first started hearing about this, it was sort of like, you got the image that it was just this one big conspiracy that created the space, community. What I first started hearing about it was that there were thousands, 10,000, I don't remember how many, but there were thousands of people who were thinkers, scientists, engineers, all these kind of like, educated people who were disappearing. And that started in the 60s. Was nothing that, of course we didn't have the internet, it was nothing that seemed to make any sense, but there were indications that this was occurring. So, it just, I got filed away, way back in my mind. And then, much later, like, the 2000s, you start hearing about, somebody hacking into, the military's, computers and finding out that there are people that are being assigned to ships that aren't ships that are Navy ships in the U.S., and that they must be the secret space ships. Then you get people like, Randy Kramer that comes out, and he talks about having been an 18-year-old and taken out of his body and going on a 20-year stint of being a space person. Now, he actually lived this, okay? But what they did was at the time he was 18, they took him and they put him through 20 years of going to Mars and doing all sorts of things. And then when he was over the 20 years, they sent him back, but they sent him back in time, not just sent him back to Earth to when he was 18. So he wakes up in his 18-year-old body after having lived for 20 years. Now, some of us think that maybe that's a good idea, but not really if you've lived in a weird life like he has, and then you wake up and you're 18 years old again, and then you're going through your life, and suddenly you start to remember this other 20 years that you lived. So, Kramer was, there was another guy before him, I think his name was Phillips, I won't swear to it, and other people that started coming out and telling about these bizarre stories about a secret space, they called it the breakaway civilization. As more and more of these people started coming out and as more leaking started happening, it was like, oh my God, is this true? Is there really a Star Trek universe out there that we weren't aware of? The guy that really seemed to have made the difference was a guy by the name of Corey Goode. And prior to even him, there was a guy that came out that by the name of William Tompkins. And he said that after World War II, he was hired to get different, information that they had gotten from the Germans, on spacecraft and other information to different, companies, or aerospace companies that, could handle the information. They could do something with it. He ended up becoming a member of the U.S. Navy in a program to establish actual space battle groups. At that time, he said that Nordic extraterrestrials. Now the Nordics, they look like Nordic people here, humans, extraterrestrials. That's my understanding of it. They were seeking to get the allies to be allied with the U.S. Navy and help them with the spacecraft because they were in galactic conflict with the draconian reptilians. So Hopkins says the Nordic extraterrestrials themselves were embedded in the aerospace companies. Now, along comes a guy by the name of, he's a rock star apparently, I don't know him, Tom DeLonge, and he co-authored a book, Secret Machines Chasing Shadows, which was the first in a multimedia series of books and documentaries promising to blow the lid off a cover of a secret space program in the UFO phenomena. A close reading of this fiction based on fact suggests that what it more accurately does is expose the reader to the first level of multi-layered set of secret space programs. He was the lead vocalist for Blink 182, which I can't tell you anything about. But he came out and he tells very much the same story, in that the Nazis were given access to extraterrestrial help in the development of technology. But what they decided, the writers of all this, they kind of decided that maybe this guy was given information because it's all unraveling. And in a intelligence terminology, it's they put up a hangout scenario. Now, what this means is that you tell almost everything, but not everything, in order for your audience to believe what you want them to believe, not what is the truth. So what the truth is that based on this Deloney, what did I tell you his name was? Good Lord. Yeah, DeLong. What they're trying to do is to say that, oh no, there's no extraterrestrials. It's all this secret, space stuff out there that's really, started with the Nazis, and then the U.S. got involved and the Soviets got involved, and we've got all these, there's many secret programs ongoing. Countries have their own little secret programs ongoing, but there's no extraterrestrials. And so this might be one of those situations where, you've got somebody that sounds like he's got the credentials and the information, but they just really don't want you to kind of get the whole picture, that there's extraterrestrials out there and it's much more complicated than even the concept of a breakaway civilization, and that every country has their own little space, secrets out there, secrets, So, what we're saying here is that what really happened is probably muddled in a number of different scenarios and stories that people have been told. But looking at it all, I'm going to just give you what I think happened, okay? I think that the Nazis they did have the crash in the Black Forest. So they had the craft. They had something physical that they could use to figure out how it was built so that they'd have the same technology. But even then, it would have been a daunting task. So the extraterrestrials, and it could have been the draconians trying to get the Nazis to take over the world so it would be easier for them. That's a potential that I won't dispute. So the draconians can pretend to be anybody and get the information through the Vril Society, which was a bunch of girls that had seemingly psychic abilities. And who the heck knows who they were? There's a lot of stories about who they may be. But the fact of the matter is that everything that I've seen tells me that the Nazis were highly invested in space travel and in exotic propulsion systems, and that part of them ended up in Russia, at Soviet Union at the time, and that part of them came over to America. And so you have technology that's taking extreme jumps in potential, but kept very secret. And so you got these little organizations that are doing this thing on each country. Now, the thing that is always sort of like made everybody kind of stop and wonder about is the armada of Navy ships that went to Antarctic in 46 under Admiral Byrd. Because they go down there and something happens. Now, according to the Russian interpretation, the Armada was attacked by UFOs, German piloted UFOs built by the Germans, and they turned around and ran away. There's another story that perhaps Admiral Byrd, because he disappeared, it was weird, he gets in a plane and he's gone for longer than there's gas in the plane, that Admiral Byrd actually somehow or another interfaced with the Nazis that were in fact in Antarctica, and probably were in fact working hand in hand with ETs. Byrd probably did have the information, because things changed kind of drastically after that. And you have a situation that it eventually evolves into a flyover of what I believe are Nazi UFOs in the 50s, early 50s over DC, that somebody that I met was actually there, and they said that it was very frightening because the people in the city knew this was happening. I think it happened for 3 days. I forgot to check this data, but they just flew over. Now, the interpretation of that by a number of people is that that was actually Nazis who were saying to all these different organizations and these corporations, and by that time the governments were not really republics anymore. It's all constant. World War II changed everything from a semi concept of government into absolute control by the corporations. So it was a flyby with the Nazis saying, look, we can make absolute havoc throughout the earth if we just fly around, because the people will just, fall apart and go crazy and, wreck your entire economies and your countries and everything else. Or we can make a deal, and we'll get together and we'll just make a deal. So at that point, you have a situation where the corporations began to, instead of work to destroy the Nazi Fourth Reich that's located in Antarctica, and they decide that they're going to work with them. So now you've got the Nazis and the corporations, the Western corporations, completely integrating themselves. Okay, I'm going to go back to my notes here, because you have, as this starts to happen, as they sort of coalesce in their organizational format, they began to work faster. Everything starts to work faster because now you've got more people working on some of the same things. The U.S. Navy, in Oregon, began to be involved in a number of extraterrestrial-related projects from 1985 to 1999. Now, what was happening there is that, again, you get a new influx of technical capabilities, because human beings are incredibly, once you get them going, they, like Walt says, they're the best manifestors in the universe. Now, when William Tompkins was in his, association with Navy intelligence, he took Nazi Germany. They had two distinct secret programs in Germany. They had the one that was creating the Bell, that was located in Poland, and they had caves, and they were really working hard to create this wonder weapon, the Wunder weapon. And then you have the group that was in Antarctic that was creating more of the flying saucers, UFOs kind of things. So they had access to some of this information that was again given to the Douglas Aircraft Company and other aerospace companies in order to, figure out what all this was about. In the end, we had the Solar Warden program that became operational under President Reagan. And what was operational, he says, is 8 space carrier battle groups, but they don't define what that means, except that some of these spacecrafts were a kilometer long, and they worked on anti-gravity. So we get this solar warden that is basically a Navy kind of operation, okay? And what Good said is that there's now up to 10 breakaway civilizations indigenous to Earth. He says that there's 3 major secret space programs. One is the large corporate entity, okay, and the other 2 are multinational covert space programs, similar to NATO. There is 5 to 7 secret space programs belonging to earlier breakaway civilizations on Earth, including Nazi Germany, and another dating back as far as 500,000 years ago. Now, when he's talking about that, he seems to be referring to, and this was another mind bender to me, that all these supposed civilizations that are living inside the Earth, that even though they were inside the Earth, they also had the capability of space travel. So that's another story, and nobody to me is real clear on what that's all about, except that they're players in this game. Okay, so we got these different space programs, and they're independent of any secret Earth governments. You know, there's there's all these government things happening too, but they're all of the groups are allied in some way or another with different out-of-towners, okay? And they have like UN type federations with both human-like ETs and non-human ETs. And they all have different agendas. Good says that there's sort of a shadow civil war going on amongst these secret space programs and their off-world allies to end control of the secret Earth governments using the Babylonian money magic slave system to control Earth humanity. Okay, now, we know right now that slave system, the Babylonian slave system, is coming apart. And if we have time, we'll talk about what Fulford said this week. But that's falling apart in and of itself. So whatever is happening, that seems to be happening. That's part of it. Now then, Good talks about that there's up to 100 spherical ships that have come in, and that's the Sphere Alliance that Terran also talks about. What got really interesting was in the last week, like what was the date? It was June 15th. Okay. Apparently there had been for quite a long time, over six months, okay, members of the Cabal / Illuminati / whatever you want to call them, over the last 6 months had fled, and they were going to South America and Antarctic, and we know that there's other places that they have fled to, but there does seem to be this fleeing of the family, you know. And the reason that this may be happening is not so much that everything is falling apart from the concept of the Matrix, it's that apparently there is a huge solar storm that's predicted to hit Earth. It's the so-called solar kill shot, and it was predicted by the remote viewer Ed Dames. Okay, and I tried to look him up, but I kind of ran out of time. He claims that it was imminent, and this was from March 21st of this year. All right, now, if there is first off, in my opinion, you can't predict the future, you can only create the future. So, in my reality, this is not going to happen. Okay, we're not going to get the solar kill shot. First off, if it starts up, in my opinion, there is a Sphere Alliance there that would protect us from it. I'm not at all concerned about that. But in the old Matrix and the old storyline, the Nazi storyline, maybe they can't even stop something that would be as big as the solar kill shot. So let them worry about that. I'm not going to worry about that personally. Now what happened was that on the 15th, apparently, okay, in the Antarctic. Now they were seeing these spheres, these big spheres that were silver and sort of had portholes all around them. And they were calling them, what the heck were they called? Cosmospheres. Alright, now they claimed that these huge spherical craft that were in geostationary orbit above the continent of Antarctica, being huge, metallic, shiny, and one row of portholes going around the sphere. One speculated that this were craft were from Russian origin, because they are similar to cosmospheres allegedly developed by the Soviets. And that these apparently the Soviets had these cosmospheres that allowed them a certain control over a certain segment of the space, like near space. And that this sounds like the same thing. And that, they were probably watching what was happening in the Antarctic area. Because they were there for 6 weeks, just sort of sitting there. Okay, so now, on the 15th of June, there was 6 large cruisers. Now these were teardrop shaped, okay? Were in the process of leaving the atmosphere after breaking the surface of the ocean near the coast of Antarctica. Dozens of unknown chevron craft, now I'm not exactly sure what a chevron craft is, swarmed these cruisers and attacked the leading 2 craft, causing massive and shocking damage. The cruisers broke off their attempts to leave orbit, returning to below the surface of the ocean where they came from. Remember, this is all around the Antarctica. Good has provided an illustration of the battle that took place. He told me that the teardrop-shaped cruisers belonged to the syndicated group who were aligned with the Dark Fleet. Okay, so the teardrop, the 6 cruisers that came out, are aligned with the Dark Fleet, which is a space program first established in Antarctica by Nazi Germany and the German secret societies, which later allied itself with the U.S. military-industrial complex. And in fact, that happened back in February of 1960 when President Eisenhower flew down and talked to Argentinian president and made this agreement that the U.S. military complex would be firmly under the control of the Fourth Reich. That led to the emergence of the interplanetary corporate conglomerate, the ICC, which is now in charge of the Nazi bases in Antarctica. So that's what that was the group that was controlling these cruisers, these teardrop shaped. All right. They then went on to say that the SSP, the Secret Space Alliance, okay, we're not sure who the chevron-shaped spacecraft belonged to, but the speculation was that they were linked to the Earth Alliance, a consortium of white hats from various national militaries working closely with the BRIC nations. I found that fascinating. Fascinating. Now, there's something called the Muhammad Accords, where the extraterrestrials and inner Earth civilization openly, before these accords, which happened back at the time of Muhammad, they openly interacted with surface humanity, but it was decided in order for surface humanity to evolve, open contact would end, and that extraterrestrials and inner Earth civilizations would no longer openly intervene in human affairs. So, there you have what I kind of know. And then, it was like what I read at the beginning, that, that the incoming energies are ramping up the levels of the sun in the solar system. We've talked about this many times. It's the concept of the photon belt, and that the black sun in the middle of the galaxy is just feeding that energy towards us. It's feeding everything else. And that we have to become more service to others. We have to get our consciousness so that we can imagine these things. And the more we attack the veil of forgettingness, the more we have, reality sci-fi programs where we just talk about things that could be happening, the more we're really giving voice to thoughts that are already there. And that to me is why these internet programs are so important. It doesn't matter how many people are listening. It matters that we get together and we really kind of feed a new thought process into the collective consciousness. And that if we keep doing this, we're going to see more and more of the veil fall. And when the veil falls, and it's going to fall quickly, it's just going to be like a resonation, you know, everybody's going to just go, oh my God, you know, everybody's going to wake up. At that moment, then we are in a position of, let's say, equality to the Sphere Alliance and anybody else that might want to, you know, talk to humanity in a way that is much more profound than people who are kept in the dark and are running around in the Star Trek universe not knowing that the vast majority of humanity had been subjugated in a matrix of lies and deceit to keep them from evolving into what Walt once said, the Q continuum.
And that's the failure of the SSP that I said to you before in another show. The failure of the SSP is that they fully supported this illusion of separation, the experiment of separation, whatever you want to call it, that's been revoked. They thought they could take off and make a perfect civilization by just choosing the most perfect specimens of humanity. So, right off the bat, their experiment begins with more separation. Let's get all the dumb, stupid people to stay back on Earth, and we'll get all the college graduates, all the PhDs, all the masters, all the people with the biggest brains, and we'll have the most amazing, fantastic civilization. Now, it turns out that they're stuck. They're suffering from inbreeding. They're suffering from, you know, not enough genetic variety. And it was doomed to fail because you have to consider the totality of the humanity. You can't just take this little bit and make it work. You took off and you left behind the rest of what makes you human. Therefore, you were doomed to fail. There more energy put into supporting the illusion of separation as opposed to saying, okay, we have all this technology. Let's share it with everybody. So everybody benefits from this. And no, I'm going to benefit. My group is better than your group. All of my members are all PhDs. All of your members are just, you know, masters and associates and whatnot. And it's not working.
Well, you know, people wonder why they would possibly want to create an environment where there's only 500 million people on the face of the planet. If you look at what David Wilcox is saying concerning the SSP, what's out there is, in fact, the Star Trek universe. Everything that we ever saw on Star Trek is just really out there now. And one of the keys to what is happening is the fact that Earth is very close to a prime vortex that allows you to go somewhere very far, very fast. And there's others in the universe, but this just happens to be in our neck of the universe, our neck of the galaxy. Well, probably universe. But what happens is that this vortex apparently pulses, and so it's opened only at a certain time and then it closes again. So people have to wait like you'd wait for a train. And as they're waiting in the solar system that's closest to this vortex, which happens to be our solar system. So the solar system is prime real estate, and there is a tremendous amount of activity that is continually ongoing out there. So we're kind of like this planet that's sitting there. I mean, I can't even imagine why they are ignoring us. You know, I mean, it's like, dudes, don't you realize that this planet is about to have a massive increase in everything?
You shouldn't be surprised because look at the reptilians. They only see what they see. Nothing else fits in their reality. Their reality is what it is, and they cannot conceive of something different. They cannot expand their consciousness to the point of saying, what if the universe is bigger than what I think? Whatever they think, whatever they believe, that's it. They don't need to make allowances for anybody else or anything else because they are the most superior species, and they're being shown the door.
Well, see, I agree with you totally, because it's almost like they're in a storyline that, yes, it's a great storyline. You're living in the Star Trek universe, but they have not understood the full implications of the Garden of Eden, of source, of spirit, of love, of joy. You know, it's almost like I'm beginning to see all of them as, you know, kind of like, I won't say pathetic, but sad little creatures that don't see the big picture. And when we were talking and Dave came in, and I asked Dave about the Sphere Alliance, and he said that yes, it's there, but the depiction of it is not exactly accurate. And I totally understood that, because I think that the Sphere Alliance is showing a face to certain human beings because it's the only way that the human being would understand it, but that it may be something much different than what we right now can see.
So did they give any clarification?
No.
Did you ask?
No, because I'm willing to deal with what we've got right now. If we just deal with what seems to be in front of us, is that a group of people from someplace is here, because if I wasn't so sure that Gaia wasn't responsible for them being here, I would be nervous. I don't like out-of-towners telling me anything. But Gaia said that she called them in, because it was the only way, and it may be that she called, and it wasn't just she, it was all the creative consciousnesses of the planets in the solar system. It was a group effort, and probably others. But it was definitely at a level above the 3D, so to speak. All the men. And that's why I'm suspicious. Like, it's not going to surprise me if instead of seeing spaceships, I see angels. That's not going to surprise me.
Well, that's the thing that I was asking Tolik when, he told that story that he was taken back in time 3 times to that particular time to see his reaction, because they wanted to understand, this feeling that humans get of loss, when somebody dies. And that's why I asked him, have they know that, does their consciousness or their technology allow them to perceive the veil of forgetting? Because that's why we act that way. With the veil of forgetting in place, we believe that we are these bodies. We forget that we are infinite immortal beings, and this is just a suit, a vehicle that we are inhabiting. Are they not aware of this? Because you could, eliminate the veil, and you don't have to cry when somebody dies. You could bury the body and still have a conversation with them, and they'll talk with you before they go on their journey, and you don't have to cry because okay, yeah, my brother is going over there. He's going to be working on this other planet now because he wants to learn this other stuff. And it's just saying goodbye to your family as they go on vacation or something, or a different journey. But with the veil in place, everybody is still in this mass hypnosis that, yes, I am this body. Yes, I am male. Yes, I am female. Yes, and all these programs that go with it. Oh, my family lineage is amazing. I have the best pedigree, and blah, blah, blah. You could have the best pedigree in the world, but you're not the body. So what is that? What value does that have for you?
Well, what I think Taryn is indicating is that, and that's why I'm so convinced that humanity has to drop the veil. That we have to all of a sudden wake up and go, oh, wow. Because Yes, you're absolutely correct. All of these ETs, out-of-towners that we've been dealing with are just as far from understanding source and, well, I think they're much farther away from what we know. We've been put into a unique place in space. It's allowing us to kind of like see it. We're waking up, we're seeing it. It's changing. People keep talking about, remembering past lives, remembering this, remembering that. It's because it's already falling. It's falling in slow motion, but it's falling.
Yeah, I think it would be traumatic if it happened all in a blink of an eye because it's going to impact human psychology. We're still tied to the psychology of the low soul, where we interpret everything on the basis of this physical identity.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with that.
So,
because I feel very strongly that this can happen very quickly, because it's one thing if you drop the veil and you see horror. This is dropping the veil and saying, you're home. We know this already. This is what we're going back home is all.
Well, the most valuable thing is remembering who you truly are. That's the most valuable thing you can get out of it. Forget knowledge, for the moment. Just the very fact of remembering who you are and where you came from. It doesn't matter, in the sense of, okay, which is your soul lineage family, or what planetary system you came from, or whatever it was, but just to remember fully, consciously, who you truly are, then you're not afraid to use your power and you come into your power fully. But people go through life, question after question after question, because they're seeking that. I mean, you've heard it, the old cliche, the person, they went to India, they were looking for themselves, or they're going to explore a different career, or they're going to reinvent themselves. Why? Because we don't remember who we are. We're still in this limbo. And as soon as that thing collapses, then, okay, this is who I am. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Like when Colleen wanted to know about what she's doing with her life, and the guide says she's doing exactly what she came to do. And they gave me all the information to back up what they were saying. So it would be a waste of time for her to go out and discover herself. She's already doing what she's supposed to be doing.
Now, let me ask you something, because in your shamanic journeys, when you first started out, you were contacting guides that were other than extraterrestrials, but now you've been contacting guides that are extraterrestrial, correct?
Yes. That's been happening for a while now.
Yeah. What's your take on these extraterrestrials? Do you feel like they are totally connected to source and spirit and that they can remember everything and that's why they're perfect guides? Or do you believe that they are messengers of a higher order sent to give certain technologies and certain understandings, but that they could also be, sort of in the dark?
Well, so far, the ones that I've met, they are the guides of the client that I'm journeying for. And they all have the same explanation, is that they're part of the civilizations that came in answer to Gaia's call for help. So they came, and their people, took physical embodiment, and it's their job to guide their people. So that's why there are so many ships in orbit around the planet. And some guides are in orbit in ships, others are in the inner earth. And it's interesting that I don't know why, how does that happen if that's an agreement between them and Gaia, but they're inhabiting the inner earth and yet they're not from here. So if there's one thing I've learned from shamanic journeys, don't try to compartmentalize anything at all. There is no set rules. Because the inner earth civilizations, they have space travel. So you could find them on a ship, and it turns out that they're not from another planetary system, they're from right here. And then you find people in the inner earth, and it turns out that they're not even from here. So, I just expect the unexpected. But the one thing remains consistent, that they are working, with their human charges, guiding them, helping the best they can because they're here in response to Gaia's call for help. But they all have, they fall with the same trap, the veil of forgetting, and it's difficult to help them because they forget who they are, difficult to guide them. One gentleman, for several centuries, he was a guide to other people, and he started getting kind of impatient because always the same questions, always the same problems. It's like he was wondering, why can't the people get it? So another guy had explained to him, well, it's the way the system works. They go into this forgetfulness, and all they have available to them is the program of the system, and the system is not designed to benefit you, it's designed to benefit the system. Little do they know that they have the power to change that by withdrawing their energy from the system. So what this gentleman wanted to do was incarnate so that he could carry out and fulfill this and explain to others how you change the reality by pulling your energy away from the so-called reality and using the law of attraction to attract the reality that you want. But he forgot. Totally forgot. So one of the things I ask, and they're not even letting me ask because they're answering the question before I ask it. I always ask the people's guides, okay, then if you don't ask, they can't do it. So I said, since I'm journeying for the client, I am asking in his name or her name, from this moment on, start managing all their synchronicities so that they'll get like a trail of crumbs in the forest. They'll have a notion of which way they should go, because that's a very frequent question. What should I be doing? Where should I be going? Why even bother? Why am I here? And the guides can do that. So I tell the people when I write the report, pay attention to absolutely everything around you. Colors, sound, music, buildings, numbers on signs, on displays, because smells, because your guides will use every element of your environment to point the way. They'll give you clues, and if you're paying attention and you're awake, you'll see them and they'll point the way that you should go for your highest benefit. And people write back after a while and they start getting used to seeing things, and some people see this particular number consistently, or some person sees a specific color consistently, and that points the way to them. But the guys can't do that unless you request it, because their job is to support you and your free will decisions, not interfere. The one time they most definitely do interfere is when you're at moments of great peril. They won't let you, get killed just because it was your, decision to go this way, and there's a car coming and it's going to kill you, unless it's an exit point. That's one of the things, before people incarnate. Since they don't know how their life is going to play out, they might change their minds. They will establish exit points, something like an illness or an accident, a point at which you can exit the physical expression. And many times they change their mind. So the point comes and goes and you didn't use it. So that's a situation where they won't interfere. It's your choice that you're going to leave now. And that's what I said to you, before this. Sometimes some people, especially very savvy souls, they leave before they die. And you can see them on the street and talk to them and say hello, and they'll say, oh yeah, I'm heading on my way to buy some groceries, but the high soul isn't there. And you can always tell with a very simple system. Just look into their eyes. That's what I said. I asked this question to Dolly when she had her issue, what happened with Stan, and she said yes. When I looked into her eyes, he wasn't there. It was some other entity. And that's how you can tell when something's going to happen. Either the person's going to fall ill, or they're going to be in a car crash or something. The high soul decided to leave. So they don't need to experience that trauma over and over again. So They do that. They leave before they die.
So just to make sure they put these exit points out so that if they're not liking life, they can leave?
Yes. My father did that. I mean, he used one of his exit points.
Huh.
He wrote. So, because he was so, disenchanted with life as a whole. Don't blame him. Yeah, that's what, I don't know if you ever had a chance to, one of Anelia's book before she wrote the interview with a psychic assassin was the interview with an alien. And, in one of her exchanges, because she would meet this woman, like in a coffee shop, and Anelia asked permission to record the conversation so she would have better recall when writing stuff down. And in one of the exchanges, the woman said something very significant. She says, people here are so used to not getting what they want, that they lose that drive, the desire to manifest what you want, because the system is not set up to benefit anybody, just the system. So people are used to not getting what they want. And that was so true and so horrible at the same time. We grow up and we get programmed to being used to not getting what we want, when the opposite is true. It's a universe of abundance that just loves to give you and just loves to fulfill your desires. But, we get programmed the other way.
Well, somebody last night on a television program, actually it was the woman that plays Cagney and Lacey. It was she was in jail, and Roselli was a cop that was undercover. And then when it all came unraveled and she found out she was a cop, and the cop actually got her out of jail, she comes and visits her, and she said, I knew you didn't belong there. And Roselli said, well, why are you saying that? And she said, because of the look in your eye. And she said, what look? And she said, hope. You had hope in your eyes. And that's maybe the key, is that if you just hope there's another story, one that comes out to be a really good story for all of us, then you can continue. But if you don't have any hope, if you don't, just don't think it's going to happen.
Well, that's exactly what they want. Because when you're doing that, you have the two choices, right? To have the hope and a better story, or to give up and have no hope, right? When you're doing that action of giving up and having no hope, that's what you're doing. You're giving your energy and your belief to the system won. And your surrender is keeping the machine running. That's the fuel that it needs to keep running. That you believe there's nothing else. That you believe it's undefeatable. That you believe that there's no other story. That's it. That's the fuel that keeps the machine running.
It's all thought warfare. Because we gotta put out enough thought to make the collective wake up. I think they're already waking up. In the last few hours, I've been getting this image of, being up above Earth and looking down, but I mean, Earth's way away. And there's all these versions of it, and they're all kind of like vibrating, like, what story's gonna come out? What story's gonna come out? And when they get the right frequency, then it's gonna be like, not just Earth, not just humanity is gonna have the veil drop, but the Draconians, the Palladians, the Andromedans, all of them. Maybe that's why some of these people that are trying to, like the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki have got a society that's based on a leadership level and then a slave sort of level. And the slaves are waking up. Why? Because they're tied to humanity. We have their DNA. They have ours. And so as we wake up and we got 22 different star families DNA in us, DNA is a cosmic internet.
Yeah. It's a living library. you have to go. That's what they showed me in one shamanic journey. It didn't look like, that when you look at DNA from the other side, not from this side, it was almost like looking at a sea urchin where you see this ball covered in spikes, but the spikes were actually like pearls on a necklace. On each pearl, it's a bundle of information. So what they were showing me is that, spirit is formless, dimensionless. So every time spirit wants to create something, it has to go through this. The DNA is like a portal. So it wants to create a tree. It goes and it flows through the right track. Boom, you have a tree. You want to create a rock. You go through this. So it's a living library for everything that can and will exist.
I like that image.
That's how things manifest, because spirit is formless, dimensionless, no size, no weight, nothing. It's just pure beingness, but it's not bound by any law of beingness. You go through the DNA to make stuff.
Fascinating, as they say. So we're getting to the end of the show. Is there anything that you'd like to impart there, Mr. Walt?
Oh no, I just ask everyone listening to us, please don't give up and just focus on the reality that you want to enjoy. I don't care what it looks like. Just focus on, not so much on thought and form. It's supposed to look like this, and no. Just focus on what it feels like to be sitting and living and enjoying the reality that you want. It doesn't matter the form, their shape, where it is, what people are around you, what conditions. It doesn't matter. What matters is you focus on that feeling, because that feeling is what makes things manifest. Thought is good for giving form to things, but feeling is the fuel and the substance that makes it come about. That's what the law of attraction responds to, your feeling. You just close your eyes and, what would it feel like if, okay, I don't have to pay taxes anymore. What would it feel like to live in my perfect reality? What would it feel like not to have go to a job that doesn't benefit me in any way other than paying the bills? So just focus on what it feels, and that the law of attraction is going to respond to your feeling, and that's how your perfect reality is going to come rushing at you. Because the universe is saying, oh look, Bill is feeling the enthusiasm, the euphoria of living his perfect reality. We have to fill in that gap. And that's all it is. Forget logistics. We get very crazy with details. Oh, but if I want this house, I have to go here and I have to go there and I have to talk to this guy. Forget the details. Focus on what it is that you want and how it would feel to have it. And the details, the universe takes care of the details, not you.
Okay, you gotta stop talking. We're at the end of the show.
Okay. Say goodnight, Gracie.
On Saturday, Taryn's gonna be back, the American Kapuki, and we will just have a wonderful discussion, no matter what we talk about, because that's just the way we do it on Saturday. So it starts at 4 o'clock, and it goes through 8 o'clock. And we hope you all be there. Colleen, thank you again so much. Everybody out there, we'll see you next week. Be safe, and try to make that Saturday. Make it something special. Just go there and just spend a little time of your energy to just, listen to what this man's saying. Cause I heard a round table the other night, and those men were gloomy. And Taryn is not gloomy. He is full of hope. And that's what we need to instill in ourselves and everybody around us.
So we're all spewing doom and gloom?
Hope. We're going to go for hope. Hope and love and joy and all the good things in life. Thank you very much. We're out of here. Be safe. See you next week.
Explanations for the nation. Overstanding the impression is the lesson. Preaching the unknown. Teaching, preaching the unknown. Several federal gatherings make it ring in my ears, bring tears over the years. People stop believing that she